So, I mean, even if you're in default, you still have to know what your options are, what options are available, to you to get yourself out of default, of these federal student loans, because we want to make sure that we make the best decisions, even in default. So the student aid website actually gives you all the information about how you can either pay off the student loans in full, go through a rehabilitation, or do a consolidation. But even in that, there's pros and cons to everything. So on studentaid.gov, when you go under loan repayment and go under delinquency and default, this is how you can get to the information about what you can do once these loans enter into a default status. We know that the Department of Education, they are going to be sending out collection notices, and those are supposed to start going out tomorrow. And we still have millions of student loan borrowers who are currently sitting in a defaulted status for one reason or another. So we just have to know where the information is. So when you get to the student aid website, like I said, you go under loan repayment, click on delinquency and default, and this is where you'll get to the information about what options you have. So they tell you if you fail to make your payments on your federal student loan and now are in default, don't let the consequences of default affect your financial future. Tell you how to get out of default. One way is to pay the loans off in full, but this is the thing that they know. The two main That's not a practical option for most borrowers. So they tell you the two main ways to get out of default are rehabilitation or consolidation, because if we could pay off our loans in full, then we, 9 times out of 10 wouldn't even be in a default. But they give you the options here as far as benefits that are regained when you go through either loan rehabilitation or loan consolidation. So deferment, forbearance, choice of repayment plans are all regained. Eligibility for loan forgiveness, eligibility to receive further financial aid if you still want to take out more student loans. But we get to the removal of record of default from your credit history. We see if you do a rehabilitation, the record is removed. Now the default is removed, but those late payments leading up to that default still remains. Also, when it comes to the loan consolidation, that record of default is still there. Not only that default information, but also that record of late payments. Interest and collection costs are added. If you do a rehabilitation, no. If you do a consolidation, yes. So you know that you're getting even more cost on top of being in default. When you rehabilitate, they tell you one option is going through the rehabilitation. To start the process, you must contact your loan holder. And it's important to know who your loan servicer is or your loan holder is. And let me show you one way. First and foremost, when you log into your student aid account, because you got to be able to recognize your loans to understand what you're looking at. So when you log into your student aid account, let me go back. So once you log into your student aid account and you just go to studentaid.gov, go to log in. Once you log in, that's where you put your email or your username and password. They'll do the verification steps on you. When you get into the account, the first thing that you're going to see, if the loans are in default, if you have a loan that's in default, it's going to say default here. You'll see a banner that's going to pop up because you have loans that are in default. But to further go into the account, that is when you just scroll down. And when you get into the account, that's where you're going to see all of the information that's connected to your student loans. You're going to see the loan servicer. So at each loan, and if you're someone that hasn't consolidated, that means you could potentially have multiple servicers, because we have loans that have entered into repayment at different times. Even if it's a loan that is in default, because we have loans that are not consolidated, that means they could have entered into default at different times. So it's just a lot of different things. If you haven't consolidated the loans, you want to make sure that you're looking at just to be sure that you're not overlooking anything. Some of you have Parent Plus loans, and if you have Parent Plus loans, you want to be looking at that loan type so you know exactly what type of loan it is that you're looking at that's in default. So want to make sure that we're looking at the servicer. You'll see the servicer at the heading of the loans, looking at that balance. The balance is a big thing because it'll tell you if you owe anything to this particular servicer or not that you owe to this servicer. If a servicer that's connected to this account is trying to collect any money. So if you see a balance there, then we know that we have a servicer that's going to be trying to collect from you. But when we look at that status, that's what's going to tell us if we are dealing with a defaulted student loan. And then, like I said, the type. If you have Parent Plus loans and you have your own personal loans, you want to be sure that you're looking at that type so you know which type of loan it is that you're dealing with. Okay. All right. And yeah, so it'll tell you the status here. Like I said, if it's a default, whatever the case may be. All right. So let's go back to the student aid website. So we know it's different processes depending on what type of loans you have. It's a different process for direct loans, FFEL loans, Perkins loans, depending on what type of loans that you have. And that's why it's important that we look at that information prior to. It says what you need to do to rehabilitate your loans depends on your loan type and who holds your loans. Loans that are in the William D4, so that direct loans and FFEL have different requirements for loans in the federal Perkins loan program. They tell you to rehabilitate a defaulted direct loan or FFEL, you must agree in writing to make non-voluntary, reasonable, and affordable monthly payments as determined by your loan holder within 20 days of the due date. and make all nine payments during a period of 10 consecutive months. So we know we're going to be making nine payments over a 10-month period. If anyone tries to extend that, absolutely not. It's over a 10-month period, those nine payments. They tell you what is a reasonable amount. Under the loan rehabilitation agreement, your loan holder will determine a reasonable monthly payment amount that is equal to either 10% or 15%, depending on when you received your loans, of your annual discretionary income divided by 12. They go on to tell you what discretionary income is. All right. For direct loans, the Department of Education is your loan holder. If your loans are owned by ED, select the section below to learn how to rehabilitate loans held by ED. Okay. They give you all of that information depending on who is the holder of the loan. And you can know that just like what I just showed you, looking at the who that servicer is or that holder is. Collections during loan rehabilitation. Your loan holder may be collecting payments on your defaulted loan through wage garnishment or treasury offset, taking all or part of your tax refunds or other government payments. And this is why we're trying to get ahead of it. We don't want it to get to a space where they are offsetting your taxes or garnishing your wages. That is why it's important. If you're not sure if your loans are in a defaulted status, that you're going to look at every single section like we just looked at to take and look at the status of your loans. We got to log into our student aid account in order to be able to know all this information. They tell you these involuntary payments may continue even after you begin making payments under a loan rehabilitation agreement, but they can't be counted toward the required nine voluntary loan rehabilitation payments. So what that means is that if you don't get on top of it and you allow the Department of Education to garnish your wages or offset your taxes, that money that they have taken from you, if you decide to go into a loan rehabilitation, does not count towards your nine monthly payments that you need to make. Not only that, they're not going to refund that money. Okay. So we want to get ahead of this before it even gets to a space of garnishment or offsetting. Okay. They tell you what to do for a Perkins loan, what things need to happen, and then they give you the benefits of the loan rehabilitation. They says when your loan is rehabilitated, the default status will be removed from your loan and collection of payments through wage garnishment or treasury offset will stop. You'll regain eligibility for benefits that were available on the loan before you defaulted, such as deferment, forbearance, choice of repayment plans, and loan forgiveness, and you'll be eligible to receive federal student aid again, what we covered. Also, the record of default on the rehabilitated loan will be removed from your credit report. However, your credit history will show late payments that were reported by your loan holder before the loan went into default. Now, mind you, if they are showing late payments, we want to make sure that if they are going to be reporting this information, that the information is accurate. So we want to make sure that we are pulling our credit reports. You can get all credit reports for free, all three from TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax just by going to www.annualcreditreport.com. So that way you can make sure the information that's being furnished to these credit reporting agencies is accurate. If you rehabilitate a defaulted loan and then default on that loan again, you can't rehabilitate a second time. Rehab is only a one-time opportunity. Then they go into telling you about consolidating. Another way to get out of default is to consolidate your defaulted federal student loans into a direct consolidation loan. It allows you to pay off one or more federal student loans with a new consolidation loan. Keep in mind, when you consolidate a loan, your accrued interest gets added to the principal balance. Then you'll get charged future interest on a higher balance, which could cause you to pay more overall. To apply, to consolidate your loans into a new direct consolidation loan, you agree to repay the new loan or the direct consolidation loan under an income driven repayment plan or make three consecutive voluntary on-time full monthly payments on the defaulted loan before you consolidate it. No, if you choose to make three payments on the defaulted loan before you consolidate it, the required payment amount will be determined by your loan holder, but the payment cannot be more than what is reasonable and affordable based on your total financial circumstances. There are special considerations if you want to reconsolidate an existing direct consolidation loan or FFEL consolidation loan that is in default, and they go on to tell you about that. They tell you again about the impact on your credit history. The information is going to remain. The record of default is going to remain as well as the late payments. They go on more to tell you about wage garnishment and court orders, repayment plans after consolidation. All of that information is here for you to be able to either go through the rehabilitation or the consolidation process if you want to pay your loans in full to get out of default. And if you need your loan holder's contact information there, okay? Um, this is one thing to know about if you do a consolidation because a lot of student loan borrowers, you've already made payments. You may have already made payments on your loans. So what happens is when you do a consolidation because you're opening up a new loan, they tell you that. What happens is all of your old payments that you have already made on that loan prior to on those old loans, they go away because you don't that credit doesn't transfer over with you. So what that means is that you're starting over new. Now, there's been a lot of different things that are happening as far as the Department of Education and this weighted average when you consolidate. But the way things are, When you consolidate a loan, you're opening up a whole new loan. So what that means is that all of that past history with those previous loans does not transfer over into that new consolidated loan. So you want to be sure that you are, weighing all your options before you make any decisions to either rehab, consolidate, and of course, if you can pay the loans off, then you don't have to worry about, any of this information here. If you're a Parent Plus loan borrower, another thing, it's important that you are looking at all of the loan information here as far as the loan type. Because if you make the decision to consolidate the loan, one thing you don't want to do is be consolidating the Parent Plus loans with your own personal loans that you have, your own student loans that you have. So I want to be sure that we're paying close attention to our loan types and everything before we do any type of consolidation whatsoever. Okay, so you'll know which loans you're consolidating and which loans that you are not. Okay, but all the information for borrowers to consolidate and to do a rehabilitation is all on the student aid website. It allows you to get all the information here and also more information about the process within itself. Okay, but if you have gotten to the point where the loans are being garnished, or if the taxes are being offset, there's a process to that as well. The Department of Education can't just, start garnishing your wages and offsetting your taxes without providing you with a proper notice. And then also given that you still have your rights and things that you're able to do and things you're able to request from the department prior to them doing any type of garnishment. But there's a time limit for you to request that, to request information from them before they go ahead and start garnishments and offsets. So just make sure you are paying attention if you're getting notices from the Department of Education that you're reading all of your information. Also, make sure that your information in the student aid website is up to date. When you log in and you do that verification and you get into the account, make sure that your name, your address, your email address, your phone number, everything is up to date because they're going to send notices to the last contact information that they have on file for you. So we'll make sure that everything is up to date. All right. I hope that this all helps you guys and good luck.